Get social with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Our handle is Eagle FM Namibia.
Eagle FM, the eye. Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
Not fraud, it's a scandal.
Scandal.
Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
All right, it's a very good afternoon to you all, and we are broadcasting live from the NWR offices in Windhoek. It's in the center of the town, and this is the first of so many series that are coming, the episodes that are coming from us at Eagle FM. And we shall be looking at CEOs, talking to managing directors, and we shall also be talking to so many people who have got the C, the chief, before their title. And this program is called the C-Suite. And of course, my name is Wanda. The station is Eagle FM. It's only that today we thought of coming to you live from the center of the town. And of course, with me here, I've got the NWR Managing Director, Dr. Mathias Ngwangwama. Well, welcome to the program.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, I think you are good like to be our very first guest on this program here.
Yeah, it's really, I looked at the invitation and I looked at the objectives, what you're trying to do. I think it's a very, very good initiative. I think if we have to move forward in terms of African business management as well as social life, we need more conversations. I think Africans are not talking a lot to themselves and about themselves.
Yeah, mostly we talk when we complain, yes.
Of course, that is from that point of view, I'm saying it's really a good opportunity, and I wish you well, and that you will refine this and will become a very relevant and useful platform of changing environment.
Yes, I would also want to thank you for granting us this opportunity to be here. Now, the issue that we want you to talk about is about post-COVID-19. Now, before we go on to that, can you give us a preview of what the situation was during COVID-19 the past 2 years?
Yeah, for the past 2 years, the situation is not difficult to highlight because all of us were there, all of us experienced, all of us have seen what happened in terms of the impact of COVID on the business management and the financial performance, as well as the health and safety issues. I think we have seen it in the past 2 years. In terms of on business management and financial performance, specifically on tourism, it was worse. Because you'll remember those days when really it was a lockdown. People could not move. You could not move from point A to point B. And tourism industry rely on the movement of people. Now, when you talk about lockdown or shutdown, there is no revenue. And therefore, the impact of it was really terrible. I think you have seen how the companies in the tourism industry specifically have performed. There was nothing there. It was really 2 stressful years of trying to see how to come out of that hole or how to come out of that situation. And we are happy that we're still alive and you're talking to us. The company is still here, you are here. You are talking to us, and from that point, I can say that we survived and life goes on.
But how did you survive? Because I understand with no bookings, with no people moving up and down, how did you manage it?
I can say that how we survived specifically from NWR point of view, I can say there were maybe 3 issues which led to that. One, we talked to our partners, the union, and we came up which we called the MOU on cost cutting measures. There were a lot of items there which we tried to manage. And I want to use this opportunity to thank all the NWR staff, because we were the first and we are the only public sector institution which came close to instituting salary cuts, for example, or freezing overtime, or freezing S&T. And that required really self-sacrifice from the employees. And therefore, I want to use that opportunity to thank them, because it was really a sacrifice, driven from the point of view that we were in a situation and we needed to do that. So both the union and the employees, I really want to thank them. Some of those messages are still continuing. We are quarreling about them. Some of them are still continuing, but we don't have no other options than to go through that one. So that is how we measured. The second one is to do with the revenue. I think you have seen we were in the market with a lot of specials, discounts and things, the Namibian specials and things like that. So with hindsight, that helped us, because the Namibian public were really responsive. When there was an opportunity to move around, they did move around, and we solely really got our revenue from the Namibian public, because the international was a problem. So that really helped us, this discount. It's really, you are going on a strategy of mass sales kind of a thing, more mass at the reduced price. There were our partners in the industry say this is a waste of time. I mean, if you discount to that level, you are making a loss. Don't go there. But we went through that, and it added to us generating some revenue which kept the company going. And then finally, the other thing was really coming with some innovative ideas. One of which, well known, is my friend is cooler than yours. That is why we could increase the occupancy, pack resorts like Sources Dune Lodge. It was locked down, it was COVID, but it was still full.
How did you manage that?
Sorry?
How did you manage it?
Yeah, it's through, again, kind of like offering this and publicizing this, what we have. We went out to the public and said, this is an opportunity. If you don't have a car, come to us. We will provide you with a car, provided you are a friend of 4 or 6 or 12. We provide you with a car. We will take you to a destination. Okay. When you put up a proposition like that, surely there are many people who are afraid of driving. And if you are giving me that opportunity, I will take that and I will use it. It is still continuing. That product has now been entrenched. That to the point that we are broadening it up. We just last week introduced now to Terrace Bay. If you have never seen the coast, come to us. We provide you a car. We take you to the ocean to Terrace Bay. And it's proving popular. People like that. Yeah. So you can call it maybe little innovations, but it was things like those really which kept us going. When you look at it in a broader picture, those are some of the measures which help.
Now, let me just mention this. There were complaints once that if you go to Gross Barman, for example, you are made to pay when you go in at the gate. The number of people in the car is not per car, but it's per the number of people in the car. Once you go in, you want to go to the swimming pool, you also have to pay. Was it the case, or is it still the case now, or it's been changed?
Yeah, especially when you enter, you still pay a fee. You still pay a fee.
Is it still per car, or it's per person in the car?
It is per car.
Per car.
Per car, yeah. Right. It is still there, but it is having its context, because there were also issues. Although I'm trying to explain to you how good the Namibian public was responsive, we also suffered some losses. Like people will go to Gross Barman and damage some things, damage windows, or in the room, we had the issue of people removing towels, for example, We had issues like that, and therefore, especially at places where it was really crowded, like Gross Barman, we have to come up. with a measure to really recover our losses also, because we realized we were really losing some items.
Yeah.
And I think even internationally you get that. I mean, I recently went to Europe. I think they take your credit card or you.
I know. You pay a deposit.
Yeah, to recover those costs, because in the tourism industry it does happen. There are people who deliberately damage some items. We at Grossbarmen during festive season in December. There were a lot of people there. There were some damages to private people's car or things like that. And we need something to recover that.
All right.
So that is the principle of that.
So now, hopefully, COVID-19 is gone. What is the plan?
What is the plan actually is that, first of all, I have to say, one of the plan is that the things we have, the assets we have, the resorts we have, we need to run them well. We must manage them, that we provide the service which is expected by the shareholder and which is expected from the public. I'm talking now about service delivery issues, which is probably not just a NWR thing, but I can say maybe a worldwide or a Namibian thing. We need to increase our service delivery, that if you pay to go to Grossbarmen, you get what you want. You know, that is our preoccupation, that we have 23 resorts. It doesn't help to try to have this ambition of expansion and getting more things. If the ones you have, there are still some serious issues there. So our view is that, especially when it comes to service delivery, managing what we have, because what we have are already in prime locations, some of them. So we try to, that is why you see there are efforts in terms of, for example, the upgrading of the skills of the people to be able to operate within that environment of the tourism environment of providing service. We have a NWR Hospitality Institute at Grossbarmen, which primarily is looking at this upgrading skills of the people and also the customer service delivery. You know, that it must come within our staff, all of us.
But can you say that there's a problem now with your service?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can't come here and try to deny that everything is perfect. In fact, everywhere where you go, where it is in the service industry, be it in the private sector or the public sector, there is a problem with service delivery. Probably the difference is that in the private sector, we are a public sector company. We are for the public, so you have the right to ask me, criticize me, show me. But which you probably can't do the same in the private sector, because there is controlled. In fact, by law, they are not supposed to disclose things to the public. That is why the difference that it is more, public sector is more prevalent, but it's not to say that the private sector don't have this challenge. Wherever you will have a service industry, there will be challenge of customer service delivery. Probably the problem is to what extent, what is your ratio?
So apart from service delivery, what other things are you working on to make sure that NWR comes back?
Okay, so the other thing is basically to do with innovations. We're looking at the issue of revision of our pricing model, for example. That is one key thing. The issue of introducing new products and services, but within the context I told you, first try to do well. But that issue of new innovation, product and services is there. For example, the pricing model, which is key. If you have to make a profit, your pricing model must be right. That is the essence of business.
But would you say that NWR is charging less, or it's charging more than other players?
It's a good question. It always comes up. I have to say, from 1st of October, we have looked at the issue of the pricing of the domestic rate. They are now new rates.
Are they high or they are lower than they were last year?
I can say that because last year there were specials and a lot of things like this. We have to take the fuel price, the whatever, little bit up. But to your questions, there is no place in the tourism industry, our competitors, who are charging less than NWR. You won't get it. Unless, even if you go bordering at Tosha, you will not get the prices which NWR is charging, that the competitors are lower than.
But one would also argue that if you go to Harare, for example, and you compare the service and the infrastructure, the maintenance with other nearby privately owned resorts, the NWR resort at Harare is, the maintenance is not what it should be as compared to the private owned one.
So
what's your comment?
This is what we are trying to do, what I told you.
Yeah.
You must also take in, it's not a secret that since the establishment of NWR, it never recorded a profit until 2019. The history of NWR, no profit until 2019. What does that mean? It means the things you are talking about, renovation and what, is a function of cash flow.
Yeah.
You must first run it well, show a profit, keep reserves, which you use to maintain. Now, given that historical context, surely the issue of renovations, there are issues there which we are now trying to address. I mean, recently we have said this year we have committed 16 million to renovate.
Yeah.
And it is not just a statement. If you go now to Ogakweyo, you will see a difference. You go to Onkoshi, a difference.
Yeah.
You go to Waterberg, there are renovation going on to try to improve that. But I have to admit, from the context where we're coming from historically, because of the issue of loss making, you will not have a reserve which a private sector probably generates to be able to reinvest in the renovation of the thing. But what 2019 told us is that it is possible. You can achieve a profit.
Yeah.
Probably it is easy. You can do. You have just to do a certain formula. If you do that, you will have cash flow reserves to be able to do renovation.
So you are looking at improving service delivery. You are looking at being innovative. What else are you looking at during this post-COVID-19?
I think those are the two main areas. But then you also issue the issues of maybe some what we call idle assets. Because surely there are some idle assets, assets which are not fully utilized to its potential. How to harness them, how to maximize return on those.
Yeah.
For example, if you look at the Atlantic Ocean, it's one of the beautiful areas in the country. Some customers who come to South Africa and say they don't understand why Namibians leave our coastline to go to Cape Town, because it is one of the most beautiful areas.
But the question is why?
Yeah, the question is, then this is what I'm trying to ask you. Is it really upgraded? Is it idle asset? Is it uplifted to that standard to be able to attract people? That's what I mean with idle asset.
Yeah.
Looking at that, how to harness it, how to make it that it really fulfills its potential, what it is supposed to do. So those are the things: innovation, service delivery, idle assets, even the issue of cost cutting or cost management.
Yeah.
The issue of business management rests basically on increasing your revenue and controlling your costs. If you do that, you will be profitable.
All right. Let us talk about the idle asset concept. What is NWR's plan? How can you make sure that people will feel that they are losing money if they go to Cape Town instead of just going close by here? What do you have in plan?
The plan is the issue of what is the song in Namibia of public-private partnership.
Okay.
What does that mean? It just means that NWR don't have that capital to upgrade the coastline fully to what it should. We don't have the money. I told you we have been a loss making. We don't have the money.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, if you ask me, how to come up with a workable PPP. And I have to be careful here, because that is probably one thing which we got maybe wrong in this country. How do we implement PPP? It's not just an opportunity to making quick money, but it's an opportunity to utilize those assets to bring value to the nation. I think the problem with PPP is how to get with a workable formula to implement it fully. We experience it here. There are some facilities which has been given to PPP. In fact, the one I'm talking to you about at the coastline, there were miles 108, mile 72, Yakal Spets. These are under NWR, were given on a PPP. But a year later or a few years later, we'd have to take them back because that PPP was a disaster.
But what was the selection like? How did those PPPs selected?
Yeah, we won't go in detail, but I'm telling you just to come up with a wake-up call. In other words, we must select the partners who are really serious to add value to that thing. Not just partners who want quick money and create more problems. In fact, there is still a PPP at Von Bach Dam here in Ogahanja. There is another one at Danfiliun, it's still a PPP. But whether they are generating what we should be getting is another question. So when people say PPP is this answer, I don't agree, because you have to come up with a workable PPP that is the answer. In fact, there must be a study. I think you media, you must go around what has been the successful PPP in Namibia and what has been the formula. Maybe that's what we have to learn and how to.
We seem to be running out of time. So as we are sitting here, what's your staff complement?
Our staff, it's a good question also. Our staff complement is 643.
All right. And these are
Before,
spread over how many resorts?
Before COVID, we were sitting at a staff complement of about 880. You asked me what did we do well. I think that is also one thing which we done well. And in terms of reducing the staff, not reducing staff to throw people on the street. We implemented a thing called voluntary separation. So there were money given to people, and some of them became successful entrepreneurs doing and tried to do. So that's how we reduced from 872 to 643, and it helps on the financial sustainability of the company.
But what did these people go to do?
Some of them open business. Some use money to open taxis. I hear there is one lady even operating in the Independence Avenue having a shop, things like that. Some went and opened tour operator companies, and they are operating those companies. So it depends on how creative are you to use capital money to generate something. Yeah. So we are 643, and really the ratio is that here at head office, we are like 100 people, or 15% are here based on head office, and then the other 85% is spread all over the country.
Dr. Ngwangwama, if COVID-19 is to come back again, have you learned anything?
Yeah, we have learned a lot. One thing we have learned is that this issue of placing emphasis on international tourists, we learned. And that's why I told you that we are revising our pricing model. We learned we must stop that thing. Yeah. We must try to encourage regional travel, which is SADC. We have now SADC rates, as well as domestic travel. We have now revised our prices to cater for that market. So that's one thing. In the past, it was really...
But you were not so keen to say whether the domestic prices, are they reasonable, more reasonable than those for SADC? Or they are at the same level?
No. They are lower than SADC. Obviously,
okay,
they are not. Yeah, affordable. Because I get worried when people say your prices, are they lower or affordable?
Yeah.
And then the next question comes and say,
because the emphasis that you are putting here is domestic, whereas your competitors, they target the other sector.
Yeah. So, but not solely. That's what we learned from COVID. That you can't, because those people who have that outlook suffered. Yeah. You wait for international to come, and maybe they won't come. Yeah. If COVID comes again, you repeat the same thing. What we learn is that try to focus regional as well as domestic.
You go back home.
Yeah, and I get worried when people say your prices are high.
Yeah.
And if it is too high, we will not be able to do the necessary renovations, maybe like the private sector. You say we will not be able to be profitable because it's about aligning your cost to your revenue and be able to generate a little bit profit. Because if that's not the case, we can't be just social outlook, because if that is the case, then it's really no longer a business. There must be cost recovery plus some margin of profit.
All right. So we just had the 30 minutes, and for me, when I do a 30-minute interview, it's like nothing. But we need to stick to time. Jax, I think we need to go back to the studio now. Your last words, the future and the outlook, and hopes, and
My last word is that before COVID, we proved NWR can be profitable. We still remember that formula which we did, and I think we will be able to achieve profitability. We were disrupted a little bit by COVID, but remembering that formula, it is easy to go there, being a profitable company, well-run company, and offering service delivery which is required. It can be done.
Okay, Doctor, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you
for being our first guest here on the C-Suite. And of course, next week we shall be visiting yet another company where we will be sitting to talk about the post-COVID plans and looking a little bit back to see how the situation was before COVID and during COVID, and then now what is the plan. We are going back to the studio, and to my crew here, Jax and the ladies, thank you for making this happen. It's a goodbye from me from NWR offices.
Thank you.
Listen to Eagle FM in Ludritz at 91.2 FM. Listen to Eagle FM in Omthea at 90.5. Listen to Eagle FM in Mariental at 101.2. Listen to Eagle FM in Okahanja at 104.0.